Energy's got to be right. We're right. Cool. Follow-ups to man that don't know pause. Now we're back at it again. We did an episode about menopause. I think it all started because a lot of folks were butthurt about something that you had seen online. Dude trainer, of course, it's a dude making us look all stupid and whatever. And it probably talking about the most volatile and emotionally unstable group of women ever. So there's bound to be an issue sooner or later. But menopause is the main thing, especially in our space. So we did cover a ton. I know that you said that you just kind of summarized some things, right?
Yeah. I mean, menopause weight gain really comes down to three things. The first thing is you're losing estrogen. And when you lose estrogen,
hang on. So you summarized it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So wait, before we get to that, let's just let everybody know that even though I'm a dude, and according to you, what you said, like, it's great that we're pros and all, but you're just this quote unquote young, skinny chick, right? So you were being discredited also for us. So between me having a peen and you being young and skinny and whatever, right, we're all of a sudden not qualified. So what we did is went out and we went and got some backup. And I reached out to a former coworker, Shanell Schulz, who is a master in science. She's also a registered dietitian, a licensed dietitian nutritionist with a specialty in diabetes care and education. Okay. So with over 15 years of experience, and this is back home in Illinois, with over 15 years of experience across the life cycle within weight management and diabetes care. She's got degrees from both ISU and South Dakota State University. And she's been board certified since 2016. Also been certified in motivational interviewing. I don't even know what the fuck that is, but that sounds special as shit. The main thing is, like, aside from me knowing her personally and having worked with her over the years, and her having more effing initials and letters behind her last name, because some folks do, you need that to feel like you're talking to somebody who's educated and experienced in something in order to know that you can trust the words that they say, and that's cool. So we're trying to meet that demand and give that to you from her words. Her main thing is that she believes that, just like we do, that the importance is actually harnessing long-term habits, right? So that you can have sustainable and achievable optimal results that'll allow you to live the way that you want to live. So aside from our personal experience and our education, we wanted to reach out to somebody who's actually been in it from the Western medicine front, shall we say, and attack some of the questions that our client base and people who have listened thus far are showing, like, well, that's great news and all, but what about this? What about that? You know what I mean? So we just went right at it, and so that's I wanted to make sure that we understood that before we summarized before. So
yeah, and we sent Shanell all these questions that came from you guys, like Chris said, our clients, the people who are listening, like your actual questions. So there's gonna be a lot of good info here. But before you get to any type of talk on weight gain and menopause and what all of that means and how to manage it, you have to understand what causes the weight gain in the first place. So during menopause, obviously what happens is your estrogen goes down. You lose your estrogen. When you lose estrogen, you lose muscle. And muscle actually is really good at keeping your metabolism pumping. It keeps your body, your metabolism going high. So as you lose muscle, your metabolism naturally drops because you don't have as much muscle to keep it going. Another big thing that leads to this kind of weight gain is insulin resistance, and we'll get into that a little bit. But as your estrogen drops, you become more insulin resistant. Your body has a harder time processing carbs that can later turn to fat. And that's something that a lot of people don't understand. It's not like you hit menopause and you're like, I'm going to lower my carbs. Like you typically just keep living how you were living before. And that's what causes an issue. And the other thing is that the symptoms of menopause make it difficult to do what you need to do to keep the weight off. So even Shanell talks a lot about how exercise, your lifestyle, stress management, all of those, sleep, all of those things are so important in managing your weight. And your symptoms of menopause make it harder to do those things. So those are the things that kind of lead to menopausal weight gain. And you have to understand that, and you need to be listening to this entire thing with that lens to understand why all of these answers are the way that they are. Okay. So always, first and foremost, before you start taking any type of medications or deciding yourself that you're in perimenopause and whatnot, you should see your doctor. And honestly, it's tough to find doctors out there who specialize in the exact question that you have. Like, doctors have different interests and different specializations. And maybe your OB doesn't specialize in menopause. You know, maybe they're more specialized in a different part of a woman's life. So find an OB that specializes in menopause if that is something that you're super concerned about, because that is going to help a whole lot. I've heard so many people be like, I'm in perimenopause, which is basically like the stage right before menopause, as you're kind of going from your regular cycle to menopausal. But the thing with that is hormones are really, really hard to track. And Shanell talks about this too. Before she answered anything, she said, you have to understand that hormones are extremely difficult to pinpoint, especially in perimenopause, because they're constantly changing based on where you're at in your cycle. So if you really want to know if you're in perimenopause, you should expect several different blood tests over multiple months, over different times in your cycle, in order to really be able to determine that. Otherwise, it's nothing more than a guess.
And that's,
Which,
you know, for those who are not, if that sounds like that's just something, well, of course they would say that when we measure fat with body composition, we go with the calipers, right? We measure your body fat. We'll take it over the course of your journey to gauge what kind of losses and transitions your body is having. It's not something that we do on day one and then again the next day and then again the next day and then again the next day and then done by different people, because it's the accuracy is then gone, right? You got to give it time for something to happen. Now we will say it has to be the same. It should be the same person. So, you know, if I pinch you on day one, I'm going to be the one that pinches you again 4 weeks into it, and then so on and so on and so on, because my technique is unique to how I do it, and that's going to give you the most accurate results. So when we talk about blood panels and things like that, you know, while it doesn't necessarily matter who draws the blood, unless you get a nurse that can just jab at you like Freddy fucking Krueger couldn't find a vein to save their life. You know, I'm talking about, you want to give your body a chance to react to the time, the hormonal compositional change, your changes that you've made, so that you have something that you can actually, you know, quantify in terms of real time data.
yeah. And same thing, like you need a doctor specializing in menopause who's looking for certain markers, not necessarily saying, well, everything's in the normal range today, but they can look at several over a period of time and make a conclusion based on what they're seeing and their knowledge of menopause, hormones, etc.
So we tried to go back and just and summarize some of these questions.
Yes, there were a ton of questions about food, obviously, like literal, what kind of foods can help regulate my hormones? How does meal timing work? Is there anything I can do with the way I time my meals to help regulate the hormones? And the gist of what Shanell said was the foods that you eat and what time you eat them at throughout the day won't regulate your hormones, but they can still help with maintaining weight, because if you're able to eat if you're able to eat every 4 to 6 hours, it helps you stay full longer. It helps you make sure that your energy is balanced out. If you're waiting all day long to eat, like you eat breakfast and then you don't eat anything else again till dinner, and if you've done that before, then you probably sit down at dinner and you're starving, and you will literally eat anything in front of you, and then you'll keep eating everything that's not even in front of you. So to space your meals out helps you stay full and helps you keep your calories that you intake balanced. Otherwise, you end up binging and eating too much. And now, even though you only ate 2 times today, you blew your calories out of the water.
Now, let's look. To be clear, that how to do that is an entirely different conversation. So we're not dancing around that, but that hasn't changed. And I think it's important to note the expectations of what we're answering and how we're answering them, because it's not that it's common sense, but if your expectation is that, the words are going to be solutions as if they came straight from Yeshua's mouth, it's not how it works. It's easier and more direct than you think, and it may not be the answer you want, but it is the answer nonetheless. Okay.
Bingo.
I mean, the whole eating 4 to 6 hours apart is not new. You know what I'm saying? Trying to, get your strength training in and things like that is something that you knew. You may, perhaps you wanted to, you were hoping to hear something like, well, if you eat half of an edamame pod, 4 jumping jacks, 3 Hail Marys, and 5 walking lunges, you will absolutely stop, the bitchy-itis from setting in. No, that's not how it works. I wish it would. So then a lot of people would feel better about their situation. But I urged folks who are going through it to realize that the fact that the answers are in fact more simple than you think, to find some comfort in that, because it doesn't have to be rocket science, but it's got to be specific, which is why it's encouraged strongly, not just from us, but now from, a registered dietitian, that will tell you, get with your doc, your OB, get with a specialist in menopause, and really get down to the nitty gritty of it, and do the one thing that we have been saying from day one, which is do your research.
Yes. And honestly, I mean, I talk with people about this almost every single day, and it's like, okay, everybody's like, okay, what's the thing that I'm missing? And it's like, you're probably not missing anything. You just have to, you have to go back to the basics a lot of the times. And some of this stuff, even though it maybe seems like common sense, like you have to look at it through that lens of, okay, my body has changed. It's not that I need to add some supplement or change my life drastically, but there are little things that you can do that will fix it. And one of them is making sure that you're not getting so hungry that you're gorging yourself at night. Another part of that, she said, was to make sure that, and we've talked about this too, balancing your meals. If you sit down and eat carbs only, that's going to go through your stomach like that, and you're going to be hungry again very soon, which again promotes overeating. Protein and fats. Which would be
the same advice if it's for any other person.
Exactly. Yep. Protein and fat, and we talk about this with all clients all the time, they slow down the digestion of your food. Okay, that's why you're not supposed to have fat around workouts, because you need to get your protein and carbs to your blood fast. But so to pair your carbs with a protein and a fat will help slow down that digestion, make sure your body gets all the nutrients it needs, keeps you full, so you're not sitting there starving all day and overeating. So are there foods or a certain meal timing that will help regulate your hormones? No. But you got to pick the right foods, obviously, and make sure that you're not overeating foods in order to maintain your weight during menopause, which again is true all your life, but just becomes that much more important during menopause because you don't have those helper hormones or the same muscle mass to keep your metabolism going like it used to. Okay. Supplements is another big one. And if you are a woman aged over 40 and you go on Facebook, I am sure you have seen ad after ad after ad for all sorts of supplements that are supposed to fix your menopause. And they're all bullshit. I mean, there is no pill that you can take that makes your menopause stop. It's a biological thing happening in your body. Happens to every woman. It's supposed to. You can't reverse it. So a lot of the questions were around, are there supplements to at least help ease the symptoms? And again, this is something that you need to talk with your doctor about. But Shanell said a lot of people end up low
What?
in what?
What
What's so funny?
supplement can I take to make me happy?
Yeah.
Vitamin D.
I knew that was coming. As soon as I
I'm
was
such a child. Every time I think of it, it's just hilarious.
as soon as I was going over this, I was
Man, let me tell you something. I highly advise not saying, "Hi, honey. I understand you're going through some things. I've got some vitamin D you can take." Because your shit about to get Lorena bobbited off. You're going to have that involuntary therapy. All of a sudden, you're going to be a shim. Okay, moving on. Sorry.
Okay,
So this is a serious topic. My bad. Sorry.
So you need to know before you take any type of supplements what you're actually deficient in. Because if you're not deficient in something and you take more of it, it could actually do more harm than good. So get the blood work done, figure out where you're deficient, and go from there. I wasn't about to say if you get too much vitamin D. I was not about to say that.
Because you wouldn't believe that if he said that anyway. Anyway,
oh my God.
The point is balance. You know what I'm saying? It's like if somebody said, "Man, I love me some fucking ice cream. I really want to lose weight. I'm not short in ice cream. Let me go ahead and take more of that shit." Like it's just not the way it is.
Right.
Now there are some vitamins like you can never go wrong and take too many veggies. I guess I suppose for all intents and purposes. I don't think anyone's ever gonna tell you, "Oh my God, you got broccoli poisoning."
Too many veggies in your diet.
You know what I'm saying? But it's about now. Do I think it's necessary? I don't want to say necessary. Can you figure without blood work? Let's assume that wasn't the thing. You know, can you just throw mud on the wall and hope that it sticks with if you take our multivitamins, for example, and our probiotics, and you're trying to get supplemented that way in terms of a general broad spectrum? Is it going to hurt you? No. Is it going to make things better? Maybe, but the way to turn the maybe into a yes is to go get the blood work done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So are vitamins going to be terrible for you? No, it's not that. What'll happen are supplements when taken in excess, are they bad? I mean, I suppose it depends on the supplement, but really we're talking about solving the issues of what you're going through. So if you want them to work, then we need to know what works for you and not just what works in general. But you're welcome to try. And we're not saying don't, but don't get pissed if the shit don't work.
Right. And she got super specific with things like vitamin D and B12. She said a lot of people, it's very common for them to be low in those two things. And those, when you're low in those, it like dips your energy, which you're already dealing with. So those were two that she mentioned because they can help with energy, which is one of the symptoms that's probably bringing you down if you're in menopause. Sleep she mentioned sleep up and down these answers a billion times. Sleep is so important. So if you're struggling with sleep, you can consider something like melatonin. Magnesium glycinate does really well for helping to calm your central nervous system. A lot of our clients take that, and they say it helps with their sleep worlds, not only their sleep, but helping get over muscle soreness more quickly, things like that. The other one was calcium for bone health, because your bone density is also dipping as your estrogen gets lower. And that puts you at risk for things like osteoporosis and more weakness and bad balance. And so supplementing with calcium to help support your bones, also a good idea.
But the irony is the bad balance. So if you're not sleeping well, you wake up in the morning and you're feeling dragging as shit. Guess what? What do you think you're going to do? That extra cup of coffee or two or three or four. I mean, caffeine's one that you have to be careful about how much you take. That's one of those ones I was just talking about. Like, is it going to kill you if you take too much of something? Like this could, because if you take too much caffeine, you go into adrenal fatigue. And the last thing you need is another thing that your body will shut down on in terms of production of natural energy.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you go and you're not hungry, it'll kill your appetite regardless. Starvation mode comes in, and now you're storing fat with the non-menopausal aspect on top of the symptoms that you'd get anyway.
Right.
So,
And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to completely cut caffeine out. Like an average cup of coffee is like 80 to 90 milligrams of caffeine. The FDA says up to 400 is safe, which I think is actually ridiculous. 400 milligrams of caffeine is a lot of caffeine. That's like,
I take that for breakfast. I'm not going to even lie.
I know, and it's very
I'm
bad
probably
for you.
close to 1,200 milligrams a day, easy.
Oh, I was
But that's
for a
me.
minute. Yes. and if you're having like a cup of coffee in the morning, is it gonna like mess up your sleep at night? Probably not. But just be mindful of your consumption and when you're having it and how much.
Yeah.
We coach people on macros every single day. And so that is naturally a very big question when it comes to menopause. Does my macro balance need to change? And that one, even according to Shanell, super depends. It is so individualized based on your lifestyle. If you're sitting at a desk all day and you're doing one really intense workout every day, it's going to look different than someone who's on their feet all day and doing a really intense workout every day. You know, you have to understand what your body needs and how to support it, and at the same time without overdoing it. Like that sitting in a desk all day as opposed to walking around a classroom or taking care of kids or, you know, whatever it is that you're actually on your feet, that makes a huge difference in how many calories
activity
you're burning.
is relative, man.
It's
really
insane.
it is.
And a lot, what?
No, go ahead.
Well, a lot of people are so focused on that, all those calories they burn in their 1 hour workout. But like, what about the other 23 hours? If you're sitting your butt in a desk, you say you burn 400 calories in your workout. If you're sitting at a desk all day, you don't bother to go for a walk. I mean, it doesn't matter as much, right? Like you have to understand that your daily habits matter so much.
Which is, listen, it's a relative number. 400 calories is
Right.
is
That would be a giant workout.
it is. And it's if you're sedentary, it doesn't take much to burn through 400 calories. If you're going to actually work out, if you don't ever do shit and you get up and wet fart, you're probably going to burn 100 calories just because. The irony is, and this is the part that's such a dick punch, is the more in shape you get, the harder you work out, the less you burn, and you're kind of like, what the shit, man. My watch or whatever you're using to track only says I burned 200 calories, but you went and kicked that ass, and you're kind of like, what? You know what I'm saying? But that is the expectation that you may not have expected, but it tells you you're on the right track. That means you're efficient. You know what that means is you're not burning 400 in an hour. You're burning 2,000 in a day, because in that hour, your body's like, all right, this is a little more intense than doing whatever it is I do every day. So you'll burn 200 instead of 400 or 500 in that hour. But the hour after that, it's another 200. And the hour after that is 180. And the hour after that is 150. And in your body, the metabolic engine starts to die down as you're no longer exerting as much. And instead of a 1 hour workout, your activity now goes from that 1 hour to several hours in terms of internal combustion. But you don't ever actually notice that when you're not looking for it. You can't see the forest from the trees in a lot of these things. You know what I'm saying? When I started building this house down here, it was like, I was telling people, I want to get my doctor actually, when he said my blood pressure is through the roof, probably because of the 8,000 milligrams of fucking caffeine, right? He's like, really? I said, I need to get back to working out. My blood pressure was really high. My A1 count is high. Everything is high, whatever. And he's like, well, I said, I need to get back to my regular workouts. He's like, you're active as shit, man. You're building a house. You're up and down ladders, lifting all this heavy stuff. But again, what we say about appropriate activity, my normal day to day as an athlete, my activity is not like lifting some boards and shit. To me, is not strenuous. It got to be that way, even like, especially as I got older and things like that. Can I go and carry a couple of sheets of plywood up and down stairs as easy as I could before? No. But it's not that's nothing more than just because it's age, right? I need to move weight in a structural way for my body to meet its challenge. And so your body may need to have more than what you're used to, especially if it's been on the lower end in terms of caloric expenditure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's especially as your metabolism goes down, like, like you said, because of age, your estrogen's down, not you, but menopausal woman, her estrogen is down, and that makes her metabolism go down, which means your amount of calories you need to be eating every day also goes down. So you may need to adjust some of those things downward just to make room for the fact that your metabolism is also going down. And with that, the other thing she really hit hard the whole time was protein.
Mm-hmm.
Protein, because protein is what helps continue to build that new muscle tissue. And so without it, you could be working out all day long, but if you don't have the proper protein to build the muscle, it's not going to build any muscle, and your metabolism is going to be stuck right where it is still.
Yeah.
So she's, and the macro balance, I don't even really want to get into that too much because it is so individualized. And if I say something, you guys are going to take it as like, okay, that's what I should be doing. And that's not necessarily the case, because if you are dealing with some insulin resistance, if you are dealing with some things like that, then your carbs are going to have to be way lower than what, we would typically set somebody at. So macro balance really depends on whether or not you're going into insulin resistance or not. But protein is always important, and keeping fat low is also generally important. So those are the two main things there. Protein should be immediately 30 to 45 minutes post-workout, about 20, she says 15 grams. I've seen research that says up to 25 grams, but post-workout, somewhere in that realm of 20 grams of protein, super important, 30 to 45 minutes post-workout. That will help build some of that muscle back too, to help your metabolism keep pumping. And also, if you're dealing with insulin resistance, or you suspect you are, that is something that your doctor needs to diagnose. You can't just say I'm insulin resistant. Mm-hmm. So make sure you get all that checked out if you are thinking that might be what's going on. The other thing, people are always like, okay, well, I'm in menopause now, so I should start intermittent fasting, or I should start keto.
Keto, yeah.
Yeah, and that will help me. Intermittent fasting, first of all, there have been studies done that show that intermittent fasting actually, to fast for a certain amount of time actually slows your metabolism down. And so, that's not what you want. But again, when we talk about meal timing, if intermittent fasting is going to lead you to go into your food window and eat everything in sight, it's not going to work for weight loss. Intermittent fasting was not designed for weight loss. It was designed to help your inner parts of your body recover and do what they need to do more efficiently. So if you're doing intermittent fasting for weight loss, you're doing it wrong anyways. But she went on about a study that they did over 6 years. People intermittent fasted for 6 years. They lost weight. It followed them after the 6 years, and every single one of them gained it back. Every single one of them.
Well, that's not just because of just fasting. That's probably the issue with fasting is it's people they practice that in the same regard as they would start pill popping and taking shots of Ozempic or fucking dumb shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Again, the expectations. I said in the last thing we talked about this issue, and we've spoken about fasting before. And in the beginning, I was like, it's fucking stupid. You know what I'm saying? And I'm on the fence on it, but I get more of it because of it's like a natural version of chemo, if that makes sense. You got parasites. Everyone's got a parasite somewhere. I'll tell you that much right now. Okay. If you're craving something, if you're craving especially sugars, if you're craving sugars at nighttime, okay. You got a parasite. I'm sorry. More than likely. I shouldn't say guaranteed, but when you fast, you starve it from everything, and it gives your body a chance to go back into its natural recovery mode. So, the intermittent fasting is not intended to, hey, let me just starve at breakfast time so I can be a dumb shit, angry all effing day for no reason, without any other structure built into the program. So when the fasting is done, you're gonna throw up your food because your stomach shrank and you're just so damn hungry you're fucking ravenous.
Oh my gosh.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of times intermittent fasting helps you lose weight because you're eating less calories.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things Shanell said in here, I say this to people all the time. So I was excited that she said this, but she said intermittent fasting, just most of the time, if weight loss is your main goal, intermittent fasting is not worth the headache. Because if you're losing weight in intermittent fasting, it's most likely because you're either getting rid of toxins in your body, which you can do without intermittent fasting, or you're at a calorie deficit, which again, you can do without intermittent fasting. You could space your meals out with clean, whole food all day long and still detoxify your body and still be at a calorie deficit and still lose weight. But you
And you
don't have to
lose the
worry about,
density in the muscle tissue.
yes, yeah. So, and she said very similar about keto. She actually talked about a specific client that she worked with who was on keto. And when he went to the doctor, his bad cholesterols were through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor was about to put him on medication. And he mentioned he was keto. So they said, okay, let's try a diet change and see what happens. He started, he stopped doing keto. He started eating more normally again. And when he went back to the doctor, his bad cholesterols had improved. He didn't have to ever go on medication. So it just goes back to how individualized it is. Like keto does work for some people. It was originally made to be a treatment for epilepsy in children. It works really well for that. But if there's other people that it does that in, and especially if you're not doing it right. No, very few people do keto the right way. Like, and if you like, that's a different conversation, but keto and intermittent fasting, when you're talking about menopause, more trouble than they're worth if we're talking strictly weight loss here. Carb cycling, somebody asked about carb cycling and whether or not that helps to regulate hormones, especially if you're estrogen dominant, if you're dealing with an estrogen dominance problem. Carb cycling needs to be super mindfully done. Like you need to listen to your body when you're carb cycling. And it's hard to do because again, it's just really confusing. Like when you're carb cycling, that means on your rest days, you're eating lower carb. On your workout days, you're eating higher carb. But then you get into brain fog and things like that that will only exacerbate the symptoms that you're already frustrated with. So again, carb cycling, probably not worth it for most people. Although some people it is helpful when it comes to specific issues that you're dealing with, which would be then something that you'd be talking with your doctor about.
Yeah.
Or a registered dietitian.
But the non-negotiables, one way or the other, at the end of the day, water.
Oh, water.
Keep yourself hydrated.
So important.
Okay.
People be like, I drink so much water every day. And then when you ask them like how many ounces, it's like, oh, I don't know, like 2 of these. And it's like, okay, well, that's like 50 ounces, which
if you're drinking only when you're thirsty, chances are it's too late. People often mistake hunger for thirst, or they mistake thirst for hunger rather. They don't realize the body doesn't, it's not like the body can speak your language. You're going to have to learn that shit. So, we would say, I learned that trick like early on, before dinners or before, if I was going to go out somewhere, if there's an occasion, how to like stay disciplined and control myself with portions was I would bomb a full glass of water before I sat down, and you're less hungry.
Yeah.
Because your stomach has something in it. So,
and not only that, but it helps keep like your stomach and your digestion regular, and it helps to clear toxins that could be causing some level of inflammation or discomfort. So besides just keeping you full, it literally like helps your body function better in order to promote weight loss. She suggests 48 to 64 ounces a day if you're not working out. So if you are working out, it should be closer to like 100 ounces a day. The second non-negotiable is 1 to 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables with all of your meals and snacks throughout the day. So you should be getting about 2 cups of non-starchy vegetables throughout the day. That's things like broccoli, cauliflower, tomatoes, salads, cucumbers, things like corn, peas, potatoes tend to be more starchy and won't do you as well when it comes to weight loss.
And then, of course, the priority is always the protein.
Definitely. And the third non-negotiable is protein. And she mentioned that so many times. It is absolute priority every single meal and snacks when you can work it in. And when people are like, oh, I don't eat that much protein, 4-ish ounces of lean meat at every single meal, things like Greek yogurt, hard-boiled egg whites, cottage cheese, things like that for snacks are all very high in protein. If you find a protein shake that you like, we have a really good clean one on our site, but protein shakes to supplement always help bump that protein up a little bit. So water, tons of water, 100 ounces a day if you're working out, 2 cups non-starchy vegetables throughout the day, and plenty of protein are the 3 absolute non-negotiables that she says she would suggest to any patient she's working with that is going through menopause and is trying to control their weight.
And again, results vary, and
Of
all
course.
of this, without blood work, the amounts, increments are kind of subjective, I suppose. What is not subjective, and this is where that one dude, I think, that started this whole thing missed is your mindset and attitude.
Yes.
Okay. How menopause in terms of mood regulation, emotional regulation, affect you as a person will be unique to you. It just happens to be somewhat consistent across the board in terms of negative attitudes and whatnot, because nobody likes to feel that way.
Right.
You know, women have menopause, men have midlife crises, and there's especially nowadays, there's always something to be upset about.
Always.
So if you feel like something's off and you're at that age, get it checked out for sure. So at least you know. And then
exactly.
if you haven't gotten on these best practices, do it. And since you're already at the doc, get it figured out, get those metrics that you need, and adjust your brain around the I'm going to get it done mentality versus, what the fuck kind of thing. And there's no hope for me. Or worse yet, this is the worst is, I'm perimenopausal, or I'm in it up to my tits right now. And I have a free pass to be a thunder cunt. Like, no, the fuck you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, that's the kind of shit that's like, you wonder why you don't have a support system.
Well, and that was one thing I really enjoyed about all of her feedback is before she said anything about macros or calories or supplements, she said, you cannot healthy eat your way to a stress-free life. Like you can't healthy eat your way out of stress. You have to be managing your stress appropriately, which seems impossible. Like you could walk up to anybody and say that, they'd be like, oh, okay, let's make my stress go away. But there are things that you can do. And if you take the attitude like, oh, there's nothing I could do to make my stress go away, well then fuck, be in a bad mood all the time. I don't know. But you have to be able to step back and say, okay, what is in my control? What is within my control that I can help to at least some of the time make my mood better or get me in the mindset of doing this? Like, and it keeps coming back to diet and exercise, daily activity, whether you're in menopause or not. And we said this in the first episode, your consistency with diet and exercise is going to do more for your weight maintenance in menopause than anything else will. Okay. Like, and that is what we're talking about when you say it's manage your expectations. This is not magic. This is not rocket science. Your body loses weight the same way in menopause that it did before. It just requires a lot more consistency and precision and patience to make it happen, and emphasis on precision because it's going to differ person to person.
If for nothing else, working out when you're in a bad mood and you're going through it, if for nothing else, the exercise bout can become the face that you need for the bad guy. Hate that, fine. Hate it all the way. Hate it so much that you're going to hate it all the way to the beach in a 2-piece with just side boobs sticking out. Find a way to get happy. Sit down, take a second, breathe, let it pass. Go kneel and get some prayer in. Go reach in that purse and get the pocket rocket out. Do what you got to do to get your mind right. Because like I said in the way beginning, and thankfully, I practice what I preach when I say this. Hard times don't come to stay. They come to pass. Okay. And I could fucking level everybody out there on hard times right now if I was down to get that kind of personal, but I'm not, because it's not about me in that way. All right. I'm just trying to help and tell you motherfuckers that there is absolute merit to that statement. Okay. It's okay to be afraid. It's not okay to stay afraid. It's not. It's just not. All right. Nobody wants that. This is not a death sentence. This is not the end of you. It sucks. Totally understand that on every possible level. Seemingly feeling like your body is sabotaging you, that you did something wrong, that this enormous amount of regret, like, fuck, if I would have just done this in my 20s and 30s, it wouldn't be bad right now. No, the fuck, that's not true. It can help manage the symptoms, but you were facing it one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? And so there's nothing you could do about it. And it's not a bad thing. It's not. Like, you guys got that. Dude's got prostate cancer. How you like getting fingered in the ass every 10 years, the moment you're 30 years old? You know, like, no dude wants that. Like, hey, listen, men and women alike, we both have things that are unique to our sex. That's just the way it is as a species. And that's okay. But bringing things down to the gym level, to how we feel and think and view ourselves, it's always about the mindset. Your perspective means absolutely everything. So when we say shit like results may vary and it's not the same for everyone, that's not us using a blanket term so as to protect our own verbiage not to be used against us. Like, well, of course they're going to say that. They don't want to own shit. No, I'm telling you right the fuck now, I'll own it.
Yeah.
Don't be an asshole about it. You ain't the only motherfucking one. If you're going to eat like a piece of shit, you're going to smell like an asshole. That's the way it is. You know what I'm saying? And in that regard, it is common sense. But the specifics, you can get specific. Just have somebody who's not us, maybe not even Shanell on that level, and she's the one telling you, who has all of the education and experience and the proven merit behind what she's done, is telling you, go get with a menopause specific specialist via your OB and get it figured out so that you know what you're fighting.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're going to be hearing the same shit from us as you would from everybody else, and it's never going to fit just right. It'll some will work and some won't, and you're kind of just doing this guessing thing. That sucks. So in an effort to try to help, just get specific with it. Make that appointment, get it figured out. It's not going to hurt you unless you're afraid of needles, in case, just, look away, I guess. But when you get those answers, shit, you got the keys of the kingdom. Go out and get it.